Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. This is Andrew Turner, founder and host of the G&T Sessions podcast. And today we have Mr. Iskren Kulev. How are you, Iskren?
I'm very well, Andrew. How are you?
Good to see you.
You too. Thank you for the invite.
No problem. Absolutely pleasure. So whereabouts are you joining us from today? It looks quite colourful where you are.
It is. Unfortunately, weather is London-like. I'm in Sofia, Bulgaria, which is our development office.
Cool. I've been to Sofia, but maybe I'll cover that later. It's a very nice place. So nice having the show. And I know we met a while ago, and I was really interested in what you were doing as your mission and your little project. It's quite a big project actually, but we'll come to that in a minute. But one of the first questions we usually ask all our guests to try and learn from people's worlds, I suppose, by sharing their worlds is, what gets you up in the morning these days?
What has got me up over the last 6 years? I started, as we started Kindlink, and as it was more of a personal development alongside the company development. So I did build a routine, as you have to manage your day in various different ways, various different locations. So whenever possible, I get up in the morning relatively early, prior, at least 1 or 2 hours prior to starting work days. So 7 is usually a good time for that. Then a cup of hot water with lemon.
Okay.
Instead of coffee. I don't do coffee in the mornings, just in the afternoons. Then after that, a run in the park, if possible, wherever I am. Recently, since I have a more of a woods environment, I run at the after work because it's a longer run, but generally some sports in the morning is always good. And after that, quick breakfast, and depending on how it is, either before or after breakfast, I do a 15-minute meditation. That's the start.
Oh wow, that's a pretty packed morning then.
Well, yeah, that's why you gotta wake up an hour and a half late earlier.
Well, you see that. Well, so if that's 7 a.m. Sofia time, that's like 5 a.m. London time.
6. Yeah.
6 a.m. Okay, 6 a.m. Okay, that's not too bad.
But I'm usually London-based, so when I'm in London, I do the running because it's much easier in London. You have the quite close park by my place, so it's very convenient for like a quick 20-30 minute run.
So you don't do the running without the shoes on then? You don't do the barefoot running?
No, I don't do that. No. Just the standard cross in the morning.
No, some people. No, you're supposed to go back to nature, and put your feet on the ground, without the shoes, without the Nikes or the Adidas or the various other brands that we could mention on this podcast.
Every time it's warm enough, yes, please, but not the running. I can just walk around the grass, and that's lovely. I agree.
Okay. Okay. Well, thanks for sharing that. So lemon and water, that's a new one. Well, it's not a new one, but I've heard that one before, but that's good. That's a good tip. And you get some meditation as well. It's even better.
Yes, it kind of worked out that I started meditating slightly before starting the company. And probably there to some extent related. That routine was built slightly before starting Kindlink. And it is very much the routine that got me through the days, especially the high stress days, the uncertainties, because these are, it's good to have something set for the day, especially something that's good for health, both mentally and physically. And you kind of have this foundation from which you can start the day, but also I don't know how effective it is in productivity, but purely from mental and physical performance, it's much nicer. I absolutely do not need coffee in the morning at all. Very light touch breakfast, and that's already set you up for a good, at least good half of the day. Naturally, we all get exhausted towards the end. There's no doubt about it. But at least you've done the exercise, you've done the minimum of the walking, the running, the kind of the cardio, at least that. And then if you can go to the gym, then even better.
Running and weights, my God.
I do try to exercise more because I'm sitting all day long. We all are in front of computers, and there's nothing good about it. Nowadays, it's more around 15-minute walk around the neighborhood, and it's still something. And it doesn't have to be sports. As far as some form of movement for me.
Well, the interesting thing is, so I went to a stretch session with a guy called Roger Frampton the other weekend, and he's written a book called Stretch. Which if anybody's listening to this show, this episode, they should go and buy it. It's brilliant. And I went to a live session with him. There's 16 of us there, and I've never been so bendy. It's like, he was literally, making us up against the wall and getting into positions I've not been in for quite a long time. But I felt incredibly good afterwards, and I'm going to go and see him again. But he actually did a TEDx talk, and his TEDx, I think it was how sitting down destroys your body. Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, I'm sitting down here on my Dr. Evil chair today, my $1 million. And but yeah, normally I stand up. I stand up during the day, so I stand up at a desk kind of thing, because I think you spot on. It's with this whole working from anywhere. It's not. I'm not going to say working from home. Working from anywhere. You've got to try and mix it up a bit. Yeah.
As much as possible. Absolutely. This year in the summer, I was lucky enough to be able to travel and work from different locations, anywhere from nature to resorts. And it was refreshing. But I also noticed, and I've done this before, whenever you have calls where it's mostly voice or where you listen mostly, webinars and things like this, you are free to walk around. And that's how I take them generally, especially in important calls, which is more about communicating something, not about doing a tour of a system. Then for me, it's always standing or just walking around. And the way you process, you communicate, it changes dramatically. I agree. It resonates with me, the yoga type of stretching. This year I managed to do a brief yoga sessions with on the seaside, properly guided and really nicely built into the daily agenda of surfing. And I agree. Really, I think I'm going to get into yoga if possible in the coming months. It's not very easy to organize, but yeah, very nice.
Maybe you could set up the Sophia chapter of some special yoga.
Not special.
Well, you could have the Kulev method or something like that. You see.
Yeah, the startup yoga.
Yeah, like yoga for beginners. Yeah, and then you become expert.
Yeah.
No, I don't know. I don't know the crossover between actually all the stuff that Roger does and yoga, or official yoga. But there was actually a person there that's actually was a dance instructor, and he was there. And I go, what are you doing here? He's like, he's like an expert already. He said, look, this guy's brilliant. So he was so bendy. He was like, he was bent in two. It was unbelievable. I think it was made of rubber. It was made of rubber, I think. So
Yeah, for all the sports and running I do, and it's just not. I'm not bendy enough for that. But I do enjoy it. It changes the life as well. It's very much like a 15 minutes cross in the morning. There's no difference. At least
exactly. So you mentioned that I know you said been doing something for 6 years. So you mentioned it and you said it quite quickly, so I didn't quite catch it. So one of the projects you're working on, to know something that kind of is related to some stuff. I was quite very impressed with what you were working on, and that's why I wanted to have you on the show. Was this small project that is quite big? Yeah, it's growing.
Yeah.
It's yeah. So could you explain to people that listen to the show what that is and kind of how far you've got with that so far? It's fascinating.
The small / big project is called Kindlink. The two words together. It comes from. I originally started in the corporate world in financial services. And when I was 27 or 28, after 2 years in a wonderful company in London, Swedish startup back in the days, I realized that I want to devote at least my work a little bit more towards, let's call it good causes, towards helping people. And the most natural thing when you think about how the world is set are to think about non-profit organizations. So I started doing my research, reading, talking to friends, and some of them were working in the non-profit space. And doing more and more research, it came out that one of the two of the big problems in the sector is about transparency, showcasing the impact of the contributions to the donors, as well as efficiency in how the sector runs. And almost like magic, people are speaking to friends of mine and themselves keen and very engaged with the sector. We formulated like a little workbook that was let's try to solve for this problem. Let's try to come up with an idea. And because I was in financial services, I was always in between technology and sales. I mean, I'm originally in sales and marketing, but myself was always involved in the tech side, integrations, APIs, and so on. And from that perspective, I brought this kind of know-how, and they brought the non-profit one. And we started thinking, how can we create a platform that enables the donors to see their donation? Was the original idea,
right?
And then we expanded.
You mean transparency from the person putting £10 into something?
Yes.
The whole transparency right down to where that investment, that £10 has gone.
Yes, to the beneficiary.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
So that was the original concept, and it very much remains so, but we simply expanded it because once we started developing for donations, which was my area of expertise since I was in online payments, we expanded on to volunteering, gifting kind, corporate donations, and so on. With the whole concept that you can, with this platform, if we do one, we can do the rest of them in terms of tracing. So we started back in 2015, end of 2015, we started consulting with some of our initial non-profit users in terms of what kind of software would they like, how would they like this to look, and we very quickly discovered that it's not only about transparency. It's actually they don't have a dedicated software for their sector. We were talking to people who are using. I have witnessed personally on a meeting with the charity. The people were running their finances off a notebook, and this was.
You mean manually? They were running it like in paper.
A notebook manually.
Wow.
So and Excel wasn't great for them. So we saw a very big need.
Wow.
Unfortunately, that's the reality. It's like you know how the military market is usually 10, 20 years ahead. Then you get the B2B market, the B2B, then the business to consumer, the B2C is even further lagging behind. So the charity market is lagging behind a lot.
Right.
So the point is that it didn't have enough finance. It wasn't financed. Of course, it's all about helping beneficiaries. It's not about let's use the best software that there is. And a lot of them were adopting business solutions. And there's nothing bad about it, but it's not fit for purpose. As you know, nowadays in fully digitized environments, it doesn't fit. So we endeavored and said, okay, our platform is great, but in order to build something of value, to improve the efficiency alongside the transparency, we can develop all-in-one full software for nonprofits. And that is project management, fundraising, gift aid reporting for the UK supporter, CRM, beneficiary CRM, e-commerce, online payments, integrations with their website so that they can collect donations. Effectively, everything the charity needs to run their operations built in one place, built for them, and then consulted with them. Later on, 2-3 years down the line, we also developed our marketplace, which enables them to put requests for help, such as volunteering, fundraising, gifts in kind, corporate grants, whatever they might need to run their operations. So they can get their supporters and get in contact with supporters.
So it's a good question. I mean, was this a surprise to you? So you said you worked in financial services. I know where you worked before. It's a very well-known financial services company based in, I think Stockholm or Sweden, isn't it?
Yeah. Originally.
And, a very big brand. So when you went from that kind of maturity of using technology in a very well-known kind of fintech kind of use case, yeah, and then you went into charity, were you shocked? Were you shocked and surprised about how behind or how prehistoric or how, they either had nothing or they were very, 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 very immature in their capability?
Yes, because I have always lived my professional life. I've always lived in the world of computers. My professional life started in, I would say, the start of the golden age of digitalization. And the first company I worked for, which is now a different one, a big conglomerate for into payments, and they also were very kind of forward thinking. Yes, we didn't have Google Cloud, but we did have a ticketing system. We were working on spreadsheets, but everything was kind of, we were engaging on the same environment. It was easy to work intercompany. So yeah, for me, it was, I would have understood if they were on Excel, but the moment I saw notebooks and papers, that was a bit shocking. Yeah.
So what you did was you kind of did that research work with those not-for-profits to say what does ideal look like, what does good look like, if you had like a wish list of all things you could do to run the non-profit. Is that what you kind of did as the first piece of work?
Pretty much. Without knowing, we were running an agile method of development in terms of talking firstly to the users, understanding their needs, mapping them onto what we were looking to achieve as well as a company, and then developing it. And the development, of course, is a tricky bit because, it's very, very hard to find capable IT resource on one side, but also for me, it wasn't an IT resource. For me, it was a co-founder. Because at this point, we had the expertise of sales, marketing, financial services. We had in non-profit, but we didn't have the tech expertise internally. And I can drop a book recommendation here. So I was reading a lot about startups. I didn't know anything about them before, like zero. I had read zero.
Oh, wow. Really? Oh, wow.
Yeah. Up until I was 17, for me only corporate world existed, which was fine. But when I landed the job at the Swedish fintech, it was new to me. We were Series B funded at this point, and the talk in the environment was completely different from what I was used to. And then I got a little spark of the startup world, and then when Kindlink started, I said, okay, I'm actually doing this, so I might as well do the reading. So there is a book called Founders Dilemmas. Probably I've mentioned it 1,000 times.
Is it that's the one Clayton Christensen wrote, isn't it?
I have it here. I can get it up.
It's like bedtime reading.
Yes, it is. The book can be very dry in terms of numbers, but that's what I love about it, because if you are into the startup world, you do care about every single piece of data that you can get. And the author has done amazing research and compilation of.
Is it Founders Dilemmas, anticipating and avoiding the pitfalls that can sink a startup? It's Noam Wasserman. Yeah. Okay.
And he's done a research of 15 years, if I'm not mistaken, with some of the top companies that are now on the market, understanding what is let's call it a successful formula. And it goes from finding your co-founders to understanding how you should split the shares, or what kind of investor you should attract,
right,
how you should go about.
The fun topics.
Yeah, the fun topics, which actually nobody can tell you about, because every company has its own environment, its own market, however you want to put it. And he just goes, I'm not telling you what to do. It's just that 70% that do that succeed. And that's what I love. He backs everything with data. I read it cover to cover, and I loved it. And it's not a small book. So
no, I know what it is. I got confused with so Clayton Christensen he wrote The Innovator's Dilemma. So yeah, that was. I think it was before 2012 when obviously Noam Wasserman brought out The Founder's Dilemma. That's cool. That's a good recommendation. Well, thank you for that.
Of course. So out of this, I kind of formulated in my head an idea about what kind of co-founder that we needed. Another co-founder, of course. And I was, he knows that story so many times. I was thinking of the kindest and the kindest person I know, and the most technically savvy I know. And we weren't friends, we were acquaintances. We had worked before the first company, the first fintech, but 7 years before that. He was a team lead of an IT department, and I went to consult him a couple of times. But you know that kind of that feeling of super nice person stick with me over span of 5-6 years. And I dig him out. He turned out to be in London, still working for the same company. And I think he once said, would you like to grab a beer? turns out beer is kryptonite for him. So,
turns out what? Sorry, turns out
it's kryptonite for him. He just loves beer.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you're just asking for a beer, you'll get you for an hour. So yeah, we went out for a beer. It was just like dating. I mean, when you get a strong co-founder with you, it's just like going on a date, and it's not really pitching. It's just telling what you do, who you are, and what you want to achieve. And if the person wants to join. And we had a awesome couple of dates, and very, very quickly we saw that we are in the same mindset in terms of position our lives, where we are kind of ready to do that. And he gave his 1,000% from day one. It's still an awesome journey.
Is he the same nationality as you then, or is he?
Yes, by chance, yes.
Okay, so you both. I know you're in Sofia, but that doesn't mean to say you are Bulgarian, or are you Bulgarian?
Yeah, I'm Bulgarian. Yeah, and he's as well. Yeah.
Okay.
So we kicked off the project with the usual, our own finance, family and friends. And we said we were kind of super passionate about it, and let's develop something. Went out, found an IT development company, released the first product in 2016. And that was, and since then we kind of started scaling this organically, since it was a free non-profit software and fundraising.
Yeah.
There is still no such product in the market 6 years later. Still going strong. We currently have over 2,200 non-profits. We onboard about two charities every day. Sometimes even four.
Hold on. 2,200?
Yeah.
Wow. That's quite a few.
Yeah.
Are you doing 2 a day?
We're doing 2 a day, yeah.
That's impressive.
Thank you.
Quick question is, you just triggered my head. How many non-profits are there in the world? Have you done the market analysis?
Yes, we have. In the world, quite a few million, but right now the focus of the ones we attract mostly are in the UK, since the product is developed specifically for them. So in the UK, we have approximately 200,000.
Is it really that many? Wow. That's a lot, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And most of them, 99% of them, are small ones, which is the ones we started.
Wow.
And in this case, you have to remember, when we say small non-profits, we're talking 1, 2, 3 people that just want to do some good in the community. And then they register a non-profit and then do some fundraising. There's not much organization behind it, and these are the people we target. Sometimes we get, of course, we get to the mid-size, even large ones, which we've now started to work with a few of them. And these are these non-profits. When you talk to a 10 million turnover non-profit with 15 people staff, you would usually expect that they have some set processes and softwares, and that's not always the case. And we are even helping some large names, and that's the whole concept there, that the software is built for them, so they can use it however they like. There is donor engagement system, there is social sharing and social networks, there is automated reporting, and different charities come for different things. Some of them come for the CRM, some of them come for the fundraising. A lot of them come for the corporate engagement, since this is a completely unique piece of the system. Very good success at the beginning, very hard as well. In terms of how the I presume you charge a subscription for the use of the platform? Is that how you do it? Not the charities, no.
Oh, you don't charge at all?
No, not at all.
So how do you fund your engineering?
So initially it was all investment. So over time we acquired 8 angel investors from various different backgrounds, but mostly UK tech investors, angel investors, either working in the technology side or knowing tech very well. Okay. And of course with interest in non-profits. So this was kind of the golden environment we were in. Very hard to attract investors in the early days. They couldn't see the vision, which I still haven't gotten to you with. But 8 angel investors, our own funding, because we were a tech company, the government R&D scheme helps as well. And with this, we managed to bring the product to an MVP status of the money-making side. So as I mentioned, non-profits do not get charged, but we work with corporates directly to help them manage and promote their corporate responsibility. And this is the key side of the system. This is what we've been developing since 2016, 17, 18, I would say 18, we released our alpha. And that product is linked to the first one. That's why we need the first one, because a unique piece of the software is the fact that corporates and employees can see the impact of their contributions, being volunteering, donations, matching, grants, whatever it might be. And we link them to the nonprofit and providing impact information about the beneficiaries, their help, impact updates, polls, videos, pictures, stories about what the charity does with their funding and support. Okay. And this is the first unique piece, what we started with, because we had this developed and it was completely unique to the market. As we developed in 2018 and 19 with our first initial corporate users, we discovered that, of course, a large company needs much more functionalities to manage their workforce. So we expanded into an HR functionality such as volunteering, flow management, matching, payroll, giving, sustainability initiatives, tracking of SDG, sustainable development goals. So everything the company needs to run their internal organizations, as well as help employees participate. So we give employees their own space, they can run their own campaigns, they can browse through existing opportunities that our nonprofits have posted, and all of this kind of builds a nice environment internally. And another unique piece to Kindlink is the marketing angle. So in addition to the impact reporting, we allow, or the whole point of Kindlink is to enable the company not only to manage things, but externally promote it as well.
Right.
So this platform is also publicly available. Kind of something from the kitchen, that functionality is mostly popular in the US. The UK and Europe altogether is slowly adopting this as well, and only now. Since the companies were firstly coming to us for, we need these functionalities to manage things. That's great, but you're already doing all of these initiatives. Why not externally showcase them? You have a website for it. You have
so you're saying that you noticed that the US-based companies were fine about publicizing things, but the UK companies were more understated. They were more shy, you could say.
Absolutely. And what it's kind of endearing to some extent, because these companies we work with, they're doing great. They're doing amazing stuff. They're running tens of, even hundreds of campaigns sometimes a year, including their employees. And they were saying we are not going to promote. I mean, not always, but
were they sharing? I presume they were sharing it internally, but then they weren't externalizing that. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, they weren't always externalizing that, and that's where we come in and we effectively give them an environment very much like a LinkedIn type of environment for their sustainability and CSR. Effectively available to the public platform, where the campaigns, the posts, the sustainability and the community work of these employees, teams, and company is presented, with external parties being able to see it and share it. Effectively, these are the two main things parties can do, very much like a LinkedIn profile too. Yes, this company is doing all of these great things. If you're a young employee and want to consider working for them, you can see the environment and the culture.
Why do you think those? Have you worked it out, or did they admit why they were more shy or more understated about that? Is that?
I think the market is shifting. I wouldn't know what was 3 years ago when they were shy. It was more around, this is only internal. Why would we promote it? But now things have changed a lot, and especially since the pandemic and everything has shifted to digital, it becomes much more natural for this to be also publicly facing.
I suppose it also shows the the kind of to actually share that stuff. I mean, appreciate it requires some bravery, but also it also shows the heart and the soul of the company, doesn't it, and the culture.
Absolutely. And that's all we want to do. That's exactly where we want to be positioned. We want to move, because there is one thing when you do things internally, but once you start externalizing and publicizing, you're starting to do more. And you're starting to see the effect of on your business, on the people that you hire, on bringing the whole culture together around good things, on future recruits as well as future customers and partners. And then we are effectively leading a revolution towards now CSR, sustainability, community work. Our internal culture is part of the company, and it is driving business. That's where we want to get, because until CSR and sustainability becomes a clear revenue generator for the company, it's not going to be it's not going to be taken serious. It's very much like before.
Well, I suppose it depends if you classify things like employee satisfaction, and employee retention, and employee ability to hire talent. I mean, I think those are pretty fundamental KPIs. But then actually what you're saying is link that to the CSR initiatives where you can see a direct correlation.
Yeah, statistically, corporate responsibility is the best way to attract or retain employees. That's according to all the data there is out. So for attraction, retention, keeping the company together, as well as developing employees in a positive environment, corporate responsibility.
So like corporate cohesiveness as well. Yeah. Wow. Interesting. Yes, I mean it's interesting though, also with your journey that you went deep because you kind of invested yourself to go for the non-profit sector, but then your ultimate goal was the kind of commercial organizations, I presume.
Not really.
Oh, really? Okay.
So
I'm misreading it. Sorry.
No, you're on the journey. And
well, just to let you know what it triggered in my head was, so I remember seeing the Apple story, right? You remember with Steve Jobs used to say, and he obviously, God rest his soul, when he said that, he said that actually, I remember what he was saying, we're not really interested in the commercial sector. We want to use it for education and schools. Yeah, all the Apple gear was in all the schools. Yeah. And then, could go into any corporate now and you say, what do you want? Would you like a Windows machine or would you like a MacBook? And everybody goes, I'd like a MacBook, please. Well, usually they do that.
You're touching on a very important point. Yes, our go-to-market strategy was and it still is very much to attract and give a solution to the charities that are later on recommending the corporates.
Right. Okay.
This is exactly the growth strategy we employed in 2019 when we started working with slightly larger nonprofits, specifically because of the corporate proposition, and one nonprofit managed to onboard 50 corporates at once.
Wow.
Simply because they were already doing those campaigns. We were reaching businesses much faster simply because the relationship already existed. They didn't have to explain what Kindlink is. Kindlink is your fundraising platform now. In the case only of fundraising, because they were doing the events. The teams were organized internally, and naturally we had the charity partnership, so we could provide the software in a very easy way of integrating with the company.
Right.
So this was and it still is very much our corporate scale-up strategy. But of course, as we developed our solutions, naturally competition came up, and in the US as well. And that stayed a unique model to us to work and develop the best possible solution for the charities who would refer us to the corporates. Naturally, as we developed the corporate, we started marketing to them directly. But that is only part of the journey. So we started the story with a vision to showcase the entire nonprofit space, the impact of that space to the donors, being both supporters, corporate supporters, as well as individuals. And this is where we are headed. So our product is probably at 60-70% development. And that is where our next stage is going to. So starting to work on individual type of products, which will bring the entire the entire nonprofit sector under one roof. And here I can give you global data. There's 1.4 billion people supporting the sector. That is excluding the people who work in it, as well as the beneficiaries of that sector.
So that's 1.4 billion out of how many people on the planet? About 7 billion?
7 billion. There is probably about 2 billion beneficiaries out there. And there are another 500 million people working in the sector. So it's not a small sector, but it has always been neglected from technological as well as investment point of view, because everybody's saying, it's non-profit, there's no money. But there is a huge network. And as we have seen with all the social networks out there, once you have a huge network, there is always a way to monetize it in an ethical way. Certainly, I hope this time in this age.
Yes, please Please monetize it in an ethical way.
I strongly believe there is, and the corporate responsibility piece of the software is very much part of it. So we are not simply delivering like ads or we are delivering actual software functionalities which help you manage process, save your time, save your costs. So all of this is embedded into the way it's built, and this is why it takes so long. I mentioned we're in the 6th year, and we're 60-70% of the product, and the product is effectively right now two standalone software sitting side by side, one charity, one corporate. And we are going to the B2C side, which is a whole new environment.
So what you're saying is you kind of evolution. You went from non-profit organizations, but small headcount size, small team size, and then you then start to get some traction, and then you then went into larger corporates then, yeah, and then you're going to go back, you could say, to the individual then. So you're going full circle.
Exactly. Yeah. And again, when we speak about this, we've just closed the cycle of the entire sector. We have all the different various stakeholders engaged in one platform, and as you know, that is called a social network. And that's the whole concept. So we are effectively creating the social network for the entire nonprofit space. Wow.
That's a big mission.
It is. You mentioned yourself at the beginning.
That's cool. That's very cool. So, what's next, eh? Well, honestly, what's next? You're 6 years in and you're 60% there. So that means there's a chance that in the next 3 years you get to close to 100%.
I'm only speaking from product perspective. I think there is a lot to be done. I probably should clarify here, this is not just blind ambition and we just want to be big and let's have fun. This is very much why I want us to grow to that stage, is because that would mean much more positive impact for every single stakeholder on the line. More funding for the charities, more efficiencies in there, corporates getting more benefits and value from their CSR, from their team, engaging with both non-profits as well as their sustainability initiatives. And at the end of the day, developing a social network which imagine an app where you go to actually feel good, not scroll through your seaside pictures, but more around scroll through the ways you help the environment, all the non-profits.
Yeah.
And that is that good feel that we want to bring to the individual, because it's all embedded into connecting as well as seeing after this what your actual impact is.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because it's like actually getting back to the first principles of this kind of, would you call yourself a social enterprise company then? Is that what you call yourself? Or
yes, I would call us that. Although legally we did have some questions on to should we establish. And here is a tip for all the startups thinking about social enterprises. We did struggle at the beginning to communicate to investors as to, is that a social enterprise or a company? But if it's a company, how is it giving 100% of the software free of charge? And you have so much users and you have to support them, and there is cost to that. And then if it's a corporate, why don't you have this corporate separate? So all those questions came up later on. And for me, at some point we had to distinguish between the non-profit and the company side and the profit side. So we established Kindlink Foundations maybe 2-3 years ago. So Kindlink Foundation is a registered non-profit, and our entire charity software is managed by that organization, with the idea that that software is always protected. And of course, the company, the non-profit, the Kindlink Foundation work side by side, servicing the corporates.
Right. Okay.
So all of this is embedded. But yes, we have to separate it at some point. So officially, for the sake of growth and investment and driving business forward, yes, we are a company. But of course, there is a huge non-profit element behind the scenes.
And I mean, for the people who are listening on to this episode, what's your definition of a social enterprise? How do you define that?
When I wouldn't say, maybe not necessarily a whole company, but when a part of your company is delivering value for the benefit of the world, and I would argue every business does that. At this point, I would say every business to some extent does that. Now, how ethically different businesses do it, it's a question mark. I have seen great examples of commercial businesses doing so much charitable contributions. Let's imagine that you are a software platform for telephone text messaging, for instance. And the charities could use this service. It's a good service for charities. And it's a dedicated support. There's a lot behind the service, so it's a very good commercial product. And the company decides that they will service charities for free. That is already, to some extent, a big part of a social enterprise. That's how I would define. Because
so they kind of have a tariff where it's like zero rated. Text messaging.
And I have a lot of examples like this. In my last 3-4 years, I've seen commercial companies coming to us and saying, "By the way, we're doing this," and I'm like, "You're having a huge impact because you are effectively donating your product." And they are sustainable enough on the revenue side so that they can think of that. And sometimes that's how you formulate the social enterprise. You build a sustainable business model where you sell to businesses, and then you turn and give it to charities.
Okay. I mean, one of the things also, I mean, thanks for sharing. I mean, the definition I've heard is like, is it, they call it planet, profit, and people? Is that, the 3 Ps? Because one of my other guests who's coming on, well, has been on the show, we're going to be publishing his episode very shortly, is raising a large amount of money for social enterprise, as well as rowing across the Atlantic, which is quite a feat in its own right. So big shout out to Guy Rigby. Episode coming soon. Okay, no. So in terms of that, so I mean, the other thing you mentioned as well was the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. So if you those have been out there. I think there's 17, isn't there? Is that right? And how do organisations, what's the background to that? Do you know what's the UN trying to do with that, and how does that map to what you do?
Very good question. The UN Sustainable Development, I'm not sure if the UN actually put enough marketing into it. I would always put more, but it's a great initiative from purely our perspective. It's effectively a framework for measuring your impact on the society, environment, and everything around. So it gives you those 17 goals to help businesses, individuals, charities, any form of organizations to measure their impact. It doesn't have to be reserved to business. Naturally, businesses thinking forward are more inclined to take it first. And a lot of businesses, I would say probably 50% of businesses we speak with and we work with are adopting this framework. So that effectively means that when they organize an initiative, they are tracking specific sustainable development goals, let's say poverty, water consumption, and diversity. And when they launch a campaign on our system, they showcase which ones they are tracking for that specific campaign, what are they supporting. And we go actually quite granular on recording the data. So when they record data of either monetary, non-monetary, trees, plants, whatever the company is recording internally, they associate with the specific or multiple SDGs. So that we can go very granular to say, okay, for water consumption, these is all the contributions and all the campaigns we have been running. And that effectively helps them put all of the initiatives under that framework to showcase at the end of the day, okay, our company stands for these seven goals. That's what we focus on. This is our business model. This is our strategy. This is what we have impact on and what we are working towards of solving in terms of social and environmental problems.
So you're saying that with the data that you collect on Kindlink, that you can actually map them to the UN Sustainable SDGs.
That's the default
goals, and then you can actually then share that on, as a kind of analytics or reporting to the external world.
Precisely.
Wow, that's dynamite. Hey, you've been busy, Iskren.
I like to be busy.
Amongst drinking lemon water tea, lemon water and running around a lot. Yeah, see, with hopefully bare feet in the future. No, fantastic. So one of the things I wanted to ask you, given, I mean, there's a great story about your co-founder. What was your co-founder called, by the way? Desi. Okay.
Desi and Adriano.
Okay. And what are their roles? So you're the business founder, and then what your other founders, what do they do? Have you got a technical founder?
So one was so our charity co-founder was focused on charity support, charity product development, anything that has to do with the charity. Later on, he managed the foundation, and to a large extent, he still does. After this, we have our CTO who manages the everything tech related, everything that has to do with technology.
Right, fantastic.
It's a great separation of responsibilities, and that's what the founder's dilemma says. It's not a good idea to have two founders which cover their own the same area. But when your responsibilities are clear, and of course, I did have similar responsibilities and overlap with my charity co-founder, especially on the product side. But that is great. He's bringing know-how which I didn't have.
Yeah,
and that's the whole concept, that you bring together people that with the knowledge that you don't have, and you kind of build a team. And it doesn't have to be only co-founders. It's the first 10, 20 people you hire are of immense importance to the success of the company.
Yeah, it's a bit like the Marvel comics, and it's a bit like, how you get your Justice League or your X-Men together, or X-Women, and you make sure you got that right kind of coverage, where the intersection is not too much an overlap like that. It's more like this. Yeah,
absolutely. I'm very far from saying that we have the best team in the world. I think we have probably the best people in the world in terms of people. And that's why this company has survived today and is thriving today because of them. Because that dedication, I wouldn't have expected from employees, and they have given, and every single person has worked with us over the years has given absolutely 200% of themselves to the project. It was a project at the beginning, became a company later on, and still people stay dedicated to it. I remember in our first early days, we were at some point we were 8 people, which were like friends of friends.
Right.
They were just keen to solve a problem, nothing more than that. And I simply had to kind of separate. Okay, we need to do this research. We need to check this. We need to see how this works. And kind of build a, literally you're making the clay with which you're going to build the brick. It starts there.
You're bringing together the raw materials, to make the piece.
And we didn't end up working with most of these people, almost nobody. But they were for a few months' time. They were part of it, and I still keep in touch. And they still follow us, and we have a chat about it. And everybody's exactly as passionate, which is 6 years down the line is absolute pleasure. I posted last Friday. I'm not sure if you've seen my LinkedIn post. I posted last Friday. It's I feel like crying sometimes. It's just I'm just grateful for every single person on our paths that we've met, including our clients and charities. I cannot describe the feeling when you start talking with a fundraising manager who is extremely excited about their next project, and they know that with this fundraiser they're going to do so much more for, let's say, the homeless, or for mental health, or whatever problem they're solving. Same goes on the corporate side. I work with corporates, but I work with the people who turn the corporate money into doing good in the world, and that's their mindset is different. And those calls are all about how can we do it better and how can we improve.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, it's a bit like you created your tribe, haven't you? You found your tribe, and it's like you turn it into a movement, and it becomes like a tidal wave. Yeah,
I would certainly hope so. It's a big tidal wave for the whole world.
I know you can't do any much surfing in Sofia, but not far away from there. Maybe you can do some surfing.
I wouldn't do it around the UK.
Well, if you might go to Cornwall or something like that. I mean, see some surfing down there.
A bit cold for me.
Well, you can put a wetsuit on. Anyway,
fair enough.
So I suppose touching on that thing about your founders and the team. One of the things, obviously, to keep a business running that long and to be in the position you're in is fantastic. What were you? We talked about peaks and valleys, right? So sounds like you've had quite some good peaks already, and there's obviously a lot more in the future. What would be any valleys that you would want to relate or share?
I can write a book about them.
Maybe that's the book that's coming out. The Founders Valleys by Iskren.
I might take on that one. Yes, I can share thousands. I don't know a startup that counts. I'm very, very positive, and you see me kind of all smiley and nice, but I did need this morning routine for a reason, and it is because the rest of the day usually is hell. And when I say hell, I have to say it's not. It's hell from mental perspective for sure, and I can touch on the most dangerous valleys which we've had, but from both personal perspective, it takes a huge toll, and as well as from purely company perspective, times almost never runs smoothly. It's by definition. And I wouldn't be lying if I said it has been survival until this year.
Right.
And I've kind of accepted this because of the big vision. It's very natural that it takes a huge amount of time to prove the product, because nothing like this existed when we launched.
Right. It's complete white space. Yeah.
Completely blue ocean, absolutely. Especially in the charity side, initially now there is much more dedicated, much better software out there, as well as in the corporate. In the corporate space, I still haven't seen a platform which can rival us, which is sometimes a mistake. And here is one of the big lessons for me. We were running almost 6 years, 5 years. We were running straight as a tech company.
Right.
And I was focused too much on the product and not enough on the marketing side. Now I could argue that we had monetary restraints, of course, and we had to develop the best products and things like this. But in reality, the only thing that you need as a business is clients at the end of the day.
Right.
So the marketing angle should play from day one, not from year 5.
Right, okay.
It starts for us. So that was a big pitfall for us, and we've learned a hard lesson there. Thankfully,
so just a quick clarify that. So you said are you saying that you're too product obsessed?
Yeah.
Okay.
We were product obsessed to develop the best and most sophisticated thing.
Okay.
And accordingly, everything else suffered, specifically from customer acquisition and marketing at the very beginning.
Okay.
It has its huge benefits now. Of course.
So you're kind of trying to make this really, really feature-rich, all singing, all dancing, sparkly machine.
Yeah. And any founder, investor that is hearing right this now, they're thinking, yeah, this was a mistake. Fair enough. I know it was. But I somehow also think that it is very much our path, since now we can compete with huge companies that are our competitors. So I'm both. It's a double-edged sword.
It's always getting the balance right, isn't it? Because if you don't develop any features, you've got probably the shortest briefing or presentation in the history of the world. Yeah. It's like, we can't demo anything, but it looks very nice on PowerPoint, or Google Slides or whatever. Yeah. But then if you go the other way, you develop too many features. It's too complicated to pitch. Yeah. Yes, it's that kind of the product dilemma. I've got another book for you then. The product dilemma is the chief product officer's dilemma.
Yes, it's a CEO problem. It's that. I mean, it really depends on the person, its personality, as to how perfect you want the product to be. And the general rule for all startups is get the product at the very minimum amount and validate your market. And we did that. We just had to invest more in marketing, which is what we're doing now. So we're compensating, doing very well specifically because of that. Now we have a very strong product, and then we have the resources to invest in the marketing side. But also the market has shifted. So the market, due to the pandemic, due to the kind of the rise of corporate responsibility and community work, that has changed. And more and more companies are seeing the value and seeing the need for such products. So everything being digitized is it's very natural to be on a social network. It's very natural to have a dedicated CRM, both for corporates and charities. So market has changed as with our company as well. Another value or pitfall, which is a very standard one, is, and I think it's pretty much the golden rule for the golden pitfall for all startups is resilience.
Right.
So it's the stress you get from uncertainty. So if you're able to be resilient to that. To that pitfall,
the ambiguity,
the absolute inability to plan over the next 2 weeks, maybe over the next 2 days. And I'm not talking only, you can't plan anything. You can't plan to go out because you don't have the money. You can't plan to, let alone vacation or anything like this. And then you can't plan your product because you're being blocked by an investor or by a customer or whatever it is. So I think the biggest risk, the biggest lesson, and the best quality of a startup in that sense is that resilience to the stress. But it's the uncertainty that's causing most of the trouble, and that's purely mental. And if anybody is into that space, there is 1,001 tips that can help you. But I also believe that every person that really wants to resolve this, they find their own way. Everybody has their own way of dealing with the stress, dealing with uncertainty. For me, the morning routine was one of them. Yes, absolutely. Dealing with burnout, and that burnout comes from, I don't have a business for now. I don't know when I'm going to have a business. And some people are brave. I have to admit, I've seen founders that are about to close in a month's time, and they're happy bunnies and everything's fine with the world. It will get sorted. And it does. Funny enough, in most cases it does. But yeah, it's not always a fairy tale, as you know, in 97% of cases, statistically.
Oh, you mean the failure rate of startups, you mean? Oh, within a certain time period. Yeah. Okay, that's two very good ones. That's two very good ones. Any more you want to share? Or is those the top two? I thought it's all supposed to come in threes. No,
I can be very open to give you kind of the cherry. For me, I had to deal with purely mental health wise. I had to deal with a lot of anxiety from fear.
Okay.
Fear of failure. Fear of losing a team member. Of clients, of whatever, of everything. And that took a toll alongside the rest. And you're always dealing with it. And I think it's in that sense, for me, it's not only a startup lesson, it's a life lesson.
Yeah.
Because you take this and you apply it to the rest of life. And a lot of people live in fear. And if there is one thing that has all made it worth, is that dealing with fear, accepting it, that because it's not going to go away. The uncertainty is not going to go away. And that acceptance of fear and befriending your fear to the extent that you're feeling comfortable with it, to some extent, and understanding.
Getting comfortable, feeling uncomfortable.
Yes, and understanding that the fear itself, it's as scary as it feels within your body, it's effectively just a projection of your mind. So you're unlikely to die, unlikely to be on the street for the next month, 2, 3. You have food on the table, and very big part of how I've dealt with it is like that month. Everything's okay.
That's what they're saying. It's a bit like you look in the rearview mirror. You know that's what's gone has gone. You know you can worry about the future till God whatever knows. Yeah. And then you can there's that thing about being in the moment, living for that moment.
Yeah, that's the meditation. That's why you practice. That's what you practice.
Interesting. No, three really good ones. That was really good. Thank you.
Pleasure.
So on the converse of that, then, what given what you've done so far, which I think is truly very impressive, and I applaud you for that. We're now in 2021 because 2020 was written off. We rubbed it out. Right? We rubbed it out. Yeah. So what are you excited about? Like say by 2030, what were you excited about? What do you see? What do you see? Where do you think this could go? The stuff you're working on.
I think it will go wherever we lead it. But I have been very clear about our vision. So when I say a social network for the entire non-profit space, that's what I mean. That's where we're headed.
That's your BHAG.
Yeah, this is where we went. The question is how fast it's going to go. And you asked me 2021 and 22. For me, the way it feels, and I'm not going to base it on projections as awesome they look. But the way it feels is that it's a growth time. It's that time when there is a lot of serendipity happening between partners and clients and investors and things like this. So all being good, all these things happening within next year. We'll probably be expanding to many new markets.
Right.
For me personally, the US. It is our biggest market, as well as the most forward-thinking, developing, where we could apply the technology to its full extent, which already exists, as well as develop it further. So all of this is on the table, and it's starting to happen, and hopefully it does.
You see, the interesting thing is, if you go to the US, you see the question now is because everybody's leaving Silicon Valley. Yeah, you know that, by the way. Everybody's leaving Silicon Valley. So you have to go somewhere else. You have to go somewhere more like, I don't know, maybe you go to Austin in Texas. Apparently that's it's very hot, but it's all the cool dudes are moving to Austin, Texas, I believe. Maybe San Diego's quite nice as well.
Chicago, I've heard good things about it.
Okay, Chicago. Okay.
New York, yeah.
Well, there's always something going on in New York. Las Vegas. Why are you going to move to Las Vegas? That's a good one.
It's far away, you know.
Yeah, but you can go running around the Nevada desert then.
Right. Okay. That's why I'm going to the US for sure.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, what you're saying is the exciting thing is that there's lots of potential, but you don't know where.
I'm now seeing being realized. That's the exciting thing.
It's like the green shoots that you started with, and now you're starting to grow into. You can see the branches appearing.
Yeah, and again, uncertainty hasn't disappeared. I think I would definitely say the market has changed. Our approach to it has changed. We've changed a lot, and different things are coming into place so that we can realize the growth potential we have kind of always aimed for. But it truly wasn't either the right time or we didn't have the right resources at this point. And now everything's kind of coming together from both client perspective, use cases with customers, and growing into US, and all of this is including product perspective from individual side as well. So all of this building towards what Kindlink was always like.
Fantastic. So in true G&T Sessions podcast style. Well, given you are the co-founder and CEO of a Kindlink, yeah. So you're now going to share some pearls of wisdom. So what would be your little sound bites or pearls of wisdom you'd like to share with other founders or other people that are thinking about going on that startup journey? Maybe they're not, they've got this 10 years ahead of them or 60 years ahead of them even maybe.
Yeah.
What would you share about?
How many would you like? 3.
That's why I never suggested. I never go in number. Well, 3. It's the magic number. Yeah. There you go. De La Soul.
It is absolutely. The first one for sure will be for anybody thinking about it, because people kind of. I know a lot of people or entrepreneurs even who spend a lot of time thinking if they should do it. Do it if you. Forget about everything else from idea to investors and co-founders. The first thing they should be okay with is if they like to work hard. They should really have a hard think about, do I really like spending 12, 14 hours a day? Do I really, really like it? And am I okay in doing it for 3, 4, 5, 10, 20 years? And that would be the first question that they should answer. If the answer to that question is yes, then everything is about the people.
Yeah.
Again, not the idea. In this case, for me, it's the team, the investors, the relationships, everything. And there's that saying that if you say one a lie too many times, it becomes a truth. It's kind of like this within the startup world. It's you pitch it to enough people, or you talk about it passionately enough, or you gather a team that's passionate enough about it and to tell the story and pass the story on. It does become a reality. That's how companies are created. That's how ideas and innovation is created. The crazy idea of driving electric cars automatically 10 years ago? It's impossible. I mean, I would be the skeptical. When I'm on the side. So yeah, team, and sharing that idea. Yeah. Last one would be something again from the kitchen. Pick your investors very, very carefully. That's related to the team, but that is pick the people you work with, especially your investors, because I don't have a bad example. Thankfully, I was lucky enough to not have a bad example. I almost stumbled across a few, but I don't have. But for me, the investors, the way they should be, is they should feel like your best friend.
Right.
That's how when you sit down on the table, that's how they should feel. And it's a feeling. It's that feeling of sitting.
It's the vibe.
Yeah. It's that feeling you're sitting down on a table with them and talking to them and feeling like this person has my best interest. And not my best interest, the company's best interest, the shareholders' best interest. And if you are aligned, of course, you need to be aligned if you take them as investors. And honestly, in that sense, plays an extremely important role. Because a lot of founders are thinking, I'm going to exit within 3 to 5 years. And then they go to the investors like, we're IPOing for sure. And this is going to be the biggest company. But behind the scenes, they're thinking 3 to 5 years, I want to exit. I want that boat. There's nothing bad about a boat or a 3-5 year exit. You just be open about it. You might find the right investors for you, and you get what you want.
Yeah, but then some things also they may do that, but then they get on the boat and then they go, what do I do now?
Now this is how life happens. This is how people develop. They get on the boat or they get in the gutter and they change their mind.
Really, really good. You're on fire today. I'm impressed. Thank you, Iskren. So in terms of anybody that wants to get hold of you and understand more about Kindlink, what's the best way of doing that?
Always take an approach me on LinkedIn. It's a channel I definitely use. Kindlink-wise, kindlink.com is our official public website, as well as kindlink.org, which is the foundation website where our non-profit proposition is. So website, contact forms, they can use freely. Get a hold of me directly on LinkedIn, not a problem. I'm always there.
Well, thank you very much for the time today. It's been a wonderful episode, and it really resonated. I mean, what I'm planning to do myself, so it really resonated with some of the stuff I'm planning and working on. So, all I can do is, say all power to you, Iskren, and fantastic progress already. And I look forward to seeing how it develops in the next decade or few.
Thank you, Andre. Pleasure to be here and have the chat.
See you soon. Thank you very much. That was Iskren Kulev, who's the co-founder and CEO of Kindlink. And that was Andrew Turner, founder and host of the G&T Sessions podcast. Catch you later. Bye.